Hey, this is Kyle Crawford from Strong Dads. Strong Dads wants to thank Crimer Beer House for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. The beer house was started in 1982 by the Crimer family. Since that time, they have become a Cincinnati favorite. If you're looking for an incredible meal and an incredible setting, you have to try Crimer's Beer House down on Route 128 in Cleves, Ohio.
Welcome to Strong Dads. Hey, this is Merle Hutchinson hanging out with the ever-tired but always strong.
I'm here. Kyle Crawford. I'm here. I'm ready to go. I got my coffee in hand.
You are. You're all juiced up.
I got.
What's that say on your cup?
Start your day at Speedway.
Oh, hey, little commercial.
Commercial for Speedway. Well, I got here this morning and I saw Linda working out and she told me I should come in there and work out with her and.
Yeah. Why didn't you?
My back hurts.
Oh
my knees are cracking. I had to carry my crew. I had to carry my crew all day yesterday for 24 hours.
You know, I apologize to your crew out there for what they had to deal with. We were just talking when you came in here about what it takes to get a new guy on your crew.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to get a new guy on your crew.
Maybe they'll ship me out. They'll be like, I'm done with that Crawford guy. He's annoying.
Yeah. Oh, so good stuff. You had a good night shift?
It was fair. It was fair at best. It was a pretty average shift as far as after midnight. Those are the runs that really count, the after midnight runs. That's when you just get your butt kicked.
Yeah.
So it's nothing like going from sleeping or kind of sleeping to going to work right now.
Right. I can't imagine that like in the middle of winter when it's like 20 degrees out. And do we have? Can we fight this fire remotely?
See,
we've done everything else remotely.
Well,
can't we fight fires remotely?
I always say there's never a day that's too hot or too cold to have a fire.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
I will have a fire when it's 105.
Oh, for
out,
you mean in terms of how you like it?
Oh, I don't care. As long as there's a fire, I'm happy.
You are messed up.
I know. That's a disease. I know.
That's a
the
disease.
Wife tells me all the time. She's like,
what's that called? A pyromaniac or something like that?
Yeah, something. I do love fire.
Yeah, I wonder why Dayton has so many fires. We better not go down that road. Don't go down that road. So, I might have to edit that. I don't know.
Maybe.
All right. So welcome to Strong Dads. And hey, we have a show that we are kind of having fun with and just trying to put it together because one of the things that we always like to do at Strong Dads is be real. And being real means just talking about shortcomings and where we struggle, but just we're regular guys trying to do regular life. So we are going to talk about wisdom.
Oh boy.
How wise are you? Have you ever met somebody, like I knew a guy once who was, his Trivial Pursuit knowledge was crazy. I mean, the guy knew everything. He was like this walking encyclopedia.
Sure.
But he couldn't hardly tie his shoes. And it was like, he'd been bankrupt multiple times. He had challenges in life. Just everything he's touched seemed to fall apart. And it was so confusing for us on the outside because, like, if you needed information, you just went to him because he could tell you. But actually, like, how to live life, not so much. Not so much.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fun show. Here at Strong Dads, we definitely do the balance act, trying to find shows that are insightful and we get a lot of meaning out of it. And I hope this is the same, but also hope we can poke a little fun at ourselves because obviously
mostly at you, but
absolutely. Well, and we'll get into it. But part of wisdom is comes with old age and experience. So I lack the old age.
That's right.
Where you pick up that.
Come follow me, son. Yeah. Well, don't follow too closely because you'll end up, being in a train wreck.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is going to be good. I do also think it's important that we look out around us, like as strong dads, that look out around and see who are the guys in my life that offer me some guidance in terms of the direction I'd like to go.
Yeah.
Especially as I am a Christian and become growing and more so in my faith. Like, well, who's somebody that's out in front of me that I could go to get some guidance to be led? And, I have several people or multiple people that are kind of in that realm, and it really kind of depends on just really their experiences in life,
Sure.
whether they're more in the business world or more in the family world or even the athletics or whatever, the fitness side. And so there are those people that you go, well, that's kind of my go-to guy right there.
Sure.
Okay. And, I have one guy in particular that I want to point him out, and only for the reason that by worldly standards, he would not really measure up to be anything great.
Sure.
His bank account is not great. The size of his home is not great. The vehicles he drives are definitely not great. But this is a man that we've actually had on this show before, Frank.
Yeah.
And he's extremely well known in our community, and he's well known because of his wisdom.
Sure.
Because he is so wise. And he is wise in terms of living godly wisdom.
Sure.
Right? Living a life that is going to get him closer and closer to God. And so for that reason, he's just really a special person in my life. The guidance that he gives is always kind of connected to God. You know,
Sure.
like kind of the old, we've talked about before, what would God do? Or what's God's thought on this versus what does the world say about something?
Yeah.
So he is a great person of counsel for really my entire family. I think I've spoken before. He gave incredible guidance to my older sons as they were coming up, and he was involved in their life and just constantly motivating, but directing them with wisdom, not just how smart. Because, you know, like I said, by worldly standards, he's just a dude. You know, he's an old construction worker.
Yeah.
He operated heavy equipment.
Yeah.
He's not polished in how he comes off at all.
Right.
We might even say he's rougher than a cob.
I have no idea what that just meant.
Oh my gosh. Now we have to go back in and teach a little bit of wisdom on our sayings. He's just rough around the edges.
Gotcha.
How about that?
Yeah,
you got that one?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a person that's kind of in my life that I seek wisdom from versus just knowledge or intellect of how things work.
Right. And that's cool because if you look at Frank, when he came in, and I've only met him a couple of times, but the cool thing is if you look at Frank through the lens of the worldly perspective, a lot of times like, what's wrong with that guy? Man, he's just bubbly. He just like always seems to be happy. But if you look at through the lens of a spiritual aspect, you're like, I get it. I know why that guy's happy. Yeah. And I think that's really cool that you may mention like, through the lens of the world, that he wouldn't look very wise, but through a spiritual lens, he looks very, very wise.
Right. I would actually even go so far as to say that through the lens of the world, they would seat him at the back of the room.
Yeah.
They would hush him. They would ignore his presence because he's just not in flow with what the world deems is cool, important, in any way. So, and I think that's another reason why, to me, Christ is so attractive.
Sure.
Because he goes against earthly wisdom.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff he says is just like, no, that doesn't make sense. Love your enemies? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the more that as I get older, I see the uniqueness in people that are doing things that are against the grain, but leaning towards God's way. And you see it playing out in their life. And I think that's important too, like actually seeing the fruit of that, like what that has produced.
Right.
Frank is, one of the amazing things about him is he has made it his life work to pour into young families.
Sure.
And so he's in his 70s now, but he pours into young families, and to the point where, within the area that we live in, you'd be hard pressed to find a kid who's not heard of, met, or seen him. Yeah. He goes to all of our schools. He reads to all of our kids. That's what he did in our show that day. Yeah. And it's like, there's just something really weird and different and good about that. So anyway, that's somebody for me. How about you?
Oh,
don't say me. Okay. Like that would be.
Dang it, you ruined it.
I don't want to be up on a pedestal.
Yeah. So when I started to think similar to what you were talking about, Merle, that I seem to have quite a few people, again, depending on what avenue I'm looking for wisdom. When it comes to just day-to-day life, I really seek a lot of wisdom from the guys in my small group. And the cool thing about the guys in my small group is we are open and honest with you. We are very blunt. And I think that's important because when you seek wisdom from someone, you can't always seek like the affirmation. You can't seek that, oh, you're doing a great job. I think that the part of seeking out someone who is more wise than you, or someone who can kind of take a step back and see what's going on in your life from a different perspective, you have to understand that wisdom may not what you want to hear.
Yeah.
When it comes to my work, I seek wisdom again from the guys that I work with, and they will be blunt with me around the kitchen table. Like, they will not hold back at all.
I'd like to just see that I'd like to be the fly on the wall.
Needless to say, we don't want a hot mic when we're sitting around the kitchen table. Right. We would not want the hot mic there. But
the Dayton Fire Department has just been shut down due to.
Yes. When it comes to, I'm raising two girls, and I have obviously no experience with that. So I've sought wisdom from my dad, who raised, my older sister, and, calling them up like, hey, like, I'm dealing with Ava. She's super emotional. Like, how did you deal with Carrie when my sister Carrie? Like, how did you deal with when the emotions kind of took over? And so I've seek wisdom in that regard. I hate saying this. God, I hate saying this with you, Merle. I have called you and seeked out your advice in some things, because again, part of that wisdom, there has to be some experience. There has to be something that you've experienced that hopefully you can relate to what I'm going through and be able to speak truth in that. So I've seeked out wisdom from you. Again, it really hurts. It pains me to say that. But
let it go. Let it go.
I'll let it go. See that there, you're speaking wisdom right now, Merle. That's good. So yeah, I would say, and I think this is cool because, especially as men, like, we need other men, other people who have experienced similar things in your life. We need those people in our life who really speak wisdom to us. Again, not in it necessarily. It's hard for me, take work, for example. If we just get back from a fire, we all kind of have the same lens. We saw the same thing, where someone who wasn't there could really kind of be like, hey, maybe next time try it this way, do things different. So I think when we're seeking out wisdom from people, I think it's good to seek people who are not in the grind with you at that moment, who are living life with you, but maybe not were in that actual experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that is good stuff. Yeah. And, I almost called you Hun. I almost called you Hun. That is sick. My wife.
I'm done. You're no longer a wise man in my life.
The idea of, and now I've lost you completely. I had an in-depth conversation with my wife this morning. I think she's still on my mind.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
Well, part of the idea of when you do seek some counsel, like just in you referencing me, I don't have an arrogance about sharing an experience, because normally the experience has kicked my butt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so for that reason, it's not like, well, Kyle, you should do this or you should do that. It's more like, when I walk through that, this is kind of how I had to fall through.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's one of the cool things, that when you have somebody in your life that they share, not out of arrogance and pride, like, oh, I'm going to fix these people, but they've walked those steps and they understand that's not something I want to walk again. Yeah. But if I had to, here's how I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, not too long ago, and I had shared with you, Merle. We had a good friends of ours come over. They were, had some stuff going on in their marriage. I just wanted to talk to some people. And again, not that Jenny and I are like the perfect marriage by any stretch of the imagination, but we had experienced similar stuff that they did. So we were able to speak a little bit of truth, like, hey, this happened for us, and yes, it sucked. We had to go through it, but now we're on the other side of it and things are so much better. So we were able to kind of speak truth to them in that regard.
Yeah. So we got to run a couple ads.
We do, yes.
And then let's circle around and talk a little bit about wisdom And just some of the, we'll touch on Proverbs a little bit today, because some of those verses just grab you, and especially when the ones that go, I don't know if I'm very good at that. So anyway, I'd like to start with thanking the Crimer's Beer House for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. The Beer House was started in 1982 by the Crimer family. Since that time, they have become a Cincinnati favorite. If you are looking for an incredible meal in an incredible setting, you have to try Crimer's Beer House, located on Route 128 in Cleves, Ohio.
Awesome. Yes, definitely a Strong Dads. We'd also like to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency in Bright, Indiana, for coming alongside of a Strong Dads podcast today. The Mansfield Insurance Agency was established in 1981, and they are dedicated to the individuals and businesses in Bright, Indiana, and they serve clients throughout Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So definitely for all your insurance needs, check out Mansfield Insurance Agency.
All right, very good. So let's back up just a little bit and talk about maybe the difference between like earthly wisdom and heavenly or godly wisdom, okay? And by no means are we going to try to come across here as some kind of theologian, okay?
Not even close.
But just to kind of have some reference points on where we pull wisdom from and what we're trying to use it for,
right?
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Help me out a little bit. I know you and your guys just went through some of this discussion, and so help us understand where I'm pulling wisdom from, what kind of wisdom I'm seeking.
Right. I mean, I had made reference to this a couple shows ago in our small group a couple weeks ago. We dove into James 3, and the first part of James 3 talks about your tongue and how it can get you in a lot of trouble.
Oh, yeah.
And in the back half of that chapter starts talking about a heavenly wisdom versus an earthly wisdom, and the idea that there's these two different types of wisdoms that we have in our world, and they don't always, in fact, very rarely do they coincide. And it's the thought process that when we look through just what I was talking about earlier, when we were talking about with Frank, that when we look through wisdom through the lens of the world would tell you it's all about stuff. How much stuff can you accrue? How big is your bank account? How many square footage is your house? How many cars are you driving? What type of watch are you wearing? And then when we look through the lens of a heavenly realm, that idea that it's the last will be first. And that it's not about how much stuff do I have, it's how much stuff am I giving, how well am I serving other people. And so a lot of times they don't always mesh. And in fact, again, like I was saying, that very rarely do they mesh. So when we start talking about wisdom and seeking wise counsel from other people, we're going to get into Proverbs, but I think it's really important to note that when we talk about Proverbs, one of the things that they bring up in Proverbs is that idea when we seek wisdom, it has to be out of a fear or reverence for God. And how important that is when we do seek that wisdom, because again, when you say you need to fear God, when we looked at it through the lens of a worldly lens, that's kind of messed up. Like, God is this shepherd boy. He wouldn't hurt anybody.
Right.
But when we look through it through a spiritual lens, that idea that when we seek wisdom, it needs to be in reverence and fear of God. Yeah. And how much more powerful that wisdom is really going to speak truth to you.
Yeah, I think the reference point is really important, God versus manly standards. And I think it's important, too, especially as we find ourselves in a greater divide, I think, globally, definitely nationally, in terms of just like science and faith. And science, economics, mathematics, these things are all really super, super important, but they in many respects, take out the godly desire, and they just put numbers on things. Like, well, economically speaking, this would be the right decision, right? This number is bigger than that number. When I talk about that kind of thing, if I just allow those things to drive me, and not put God in there, then I'm going to talk about how big bank accounts are, how big the house is, how strong I am, how big, these fleshly, appealing sort of things. Throwing in godly wisdom completely starts to change. Well, is that number really greater than or less than in God's eyes? So economically speaking, my bank account looks like this. But in God's eyes, what would he like that bank account to look like or to be used for, So it is a totally different perspective. And I think that the challenge here is you don't know this stuff unless you seek it out. So part of our challenge here to our strong dads is, I want you to hear all that earthly wisdom out there, but then you got to start to filter it through the God lens.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, is that a good thing or not? And the way that we do that, and we've said this before, I got to first humble myself and go into God's word and ask myself, well, what does God seek out of me here?
Yeah.
What did Christ say about this?
Right.
Because Christ is, you talk about, all these parables.
Oh, yeah.
One parable after the next doesn't make sense from an earthly wisdom perspective.
Yeah.
Right. But so anyway, that's the dig in part. And that's a lot of the stuff that a lot of us like to avoid because it conflicts with our earthly wisdom.
Yep.
So good stuff there. Let's get into some of these. I jumped in mostly because after you get to chapter 10 in Proverbs, then we start to get these like one-off sayings, right? These little pieces of advice. And, they're standalones, really. They're just like little nuggets that you can grab on. Yeah. And there's a couple that come to me that I don't know why they're in my life. They hit you at certain times, but they just stand out. So I just pointed out some of them, and I know that you've got some as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and before we kind of jump into that, just what you're talking about, Merle, when stuff happens in your life, or if you're in the business world or whatever your career path is, and the worldly wisdom is spoken to you, or whatever. We talk at church a lot about when you're sitting there and they want to fudge the numbers. That idea that we need to run that through the lens of Scripture, and when we're seeking wisdom, biblical wisdom. There's 3 books that we should really refer to.
That's a good point. Yeah,
and that's gonna be Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job. And the cool thing is, like when you look at each of those, the amount of wisdom. It's crazy. It just jumps off the page. Just what we're talking about, like in Proverbs, a lot of these one-liners. If we look at Job, that this guy who's been through the grind, like he was in it, and he had some experiences where he was able to speak wisdom to other people. So I just wanted to bring up the point real fast with those 3 books. Like if you're wanting wisdom, a biblical, godly wisdom. Those are the 3 great books to start at, because when we read these in my small group, when we read these 3 books, like we get so much out of it. Like Job is a really hard book to read, but when you read it the second and the third and the fourth time, man, there's some good freaking takeaways from that book.
The first time I read Job, I was young in my faith.
Okay.
And so this is, again, we don't always understand how much we've allowed the world to shape our vision of life. And I'm reading Job and I'm going, this is stupid. He should just quit. This is, if this is the way God is, like I'm constantly seeing it through a worldly view, and it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was one of those things where I'm like, oh, that's why I'm struggling,
Yeah. Well, and like with Job, like he seeks wisdom from his friends, like
and they're like me,
and it's cool because, well, not cool, but at the very beginning, like his friends did what they listened to him. They sat there and listened, and all of a sudden there's like this transition where they start speaking what they think, and they're not running it through that godly lens. They're trying to spitfire like, well, this happened to you, it had to be because you did this.
Yes,
and God is like sitting back like, no. I allow this because I know the faith that Job has, and like he's a wise man. And again, as that book progresses, you see like just this glowing wisdom that's coming from Job. Like he's like, I got this. Yeah. Like life sucks right now. Like everything got taken away from me, right? And my friends are sitting there like, this happened because I did something. And Job continues to question, like, I don't think so. That's not why this happened to me. So Job, again, just like we were saying, the first time I read it, I was like, man, that's a terrible book. And then I read it 3 and 4 times later. I'm like, man, I love Job. It might be my all-time favorite book in the Bible. Like, I love Job.
Yeah, just the faith that he sticks to when it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good point. When it doesn't make sense, that's when you're starting to encroach into the heavenly wisdom of things. So Good point here. How about this? Let's do some one-offs.
All right, I like it. Let's go back to Proverbs. I like it.
Let's pick some out. Right now I'm in Proverbs 11, verse 2. When pride comes, then comes disgrace. But this is out of the NLT, okay? When pride comes, then comes disgrace. But with humility comes wisdom.
Oh, boy.
Here's why I struggle with this. Coming up through the elementary school, we use the word pride frequently.
Yeah.
We had Panther pride.
Yeah,
we have
pride.
school pride. Yeah. Look how great we are.
Yeah.
Look how and as parents, we want our kids to have pride. We want them to be proud of what they've done. And there's a healthy pride and there's an unhealthy pride.
Yeah.
Okay. Being proud of an accomplishment, okay, is one thing. Being prideful about that you did this on your own, okay, that you created this.
Yep.
It starts to now put you in the God position.
Yep.
Like, I'm great because I am. Okay.
Right.
And it's like, oh, wow. So this is that when pride comes, then comes disgrace. In other words, when us as men start to think we're great or we're better than we are because of who we are, that's dangerous.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
very dangerous. And that in my mind comes across as arrogant speaking and that kind of thing. And you have to be very careful about just that braggadocious sort of talk that comes out of us.
Yep, for sure. And that when you're talking about, that with pride, it comes disgrace. Again, when you try and, because again, if you look through the worldly perspective, pride is a good thing. Just like you're talking about with school pride, like you want to be number one. I'm the best at whatever sport, whatever activity you're doing. Like in the worldly perspective, that's good. But then when we look through again that lens of the heavenly perspective, like God is calling us, like the first will be last and last will be first. That it's not about how good am I, what did I do, my accomplishments. God has given everything, and He can easily take it away. Yeah. And when we again start to look through it in the heavenly realm, the heavenly perspective, the heavenly lens. Man, pride, again, the idea that you want to be good at something, you want to accomplish something, that's really good. But when you get to that point where you're like puffing your chest out, like, yeah, look what I did. Again, just like you were saying, like you can't replace God. And everything, all the accomplishments we've talked about gifts that you've been given before. Like you got to where you're at because of the gift that God gave you, and just remembering, looking through that wisdom. That wisdom comes through looking through, again, having that fear of God. Because if you think you accomplish all this, you don't truly have a fear for the fact that God can take all that away so very easily at a snap of His finger.
Yeah. Well, and so we're not saying here you shouldn't have pride in your school.
Correct.
You shouldn't have pride in your country. That's not what we're saying.
Right.
No, we should absolutely be proud of our country and proud of our school, but we have to know where the proudness comes from. I am proud of my school for all of the years that went before that school. The people who went through it that made it great, each one little brick at a time, okay? Proud of my family for the generational success that it has because it maintained its structure and its function. So that, in other words, my school's not great because I'm in it.
Yeah.
My school's great because of all of those who were in it.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference of the self-pride versus the pride in something much bigger than yourself. And of course, the ultimate reference being to God. All right. How about pick another one?
This one kind of, you would highlight a couple of these, and this one's pretty. This again, this is from in verse 9. It says, "With your mouth, the godliness destroys their neighbor, but through knowledge, the righteous escapes." And a couple episodes ago,
this is dangerous.
I talked about again James 3, and just man, your tongue can get us in so much stinking trouble. And again, when we look through the worldly perspective, like. You can essentially say, I mean, yes, there are some ramifications for what we say, but again, going back to the idea of a pride, like you can continue to build yourself up with your words, and you can speak like, I'm so good at this, and with your mouth, you can speak that what maybe in today's earthly realm would be considered quote unquote righteous, but through the lens of God, man, it destroys neighbors. It destroys the people we're called to love.
Yeah. I'm looking at this a little bit differently too, in terms of we are proud in our country because our forefathers had the insight to say, let's not censor people. Okay. But that doesn't mean that we should not self-censor. And I think that's kind of what this alludes to here with the mouth. The godless destroy their neighbors. Yeah. With our mouth, we run our mouth. I mean, Twitter is just a garbage pit when it comes to people running their mouth to destroy at the expense of another person. And so, no, I don't want government censorship over anything we say, but that doesn't take the responsibility away from self-censorship.
Absolutely.
If something's going to come out of my mouth, if you can't say anything good, son, don't say anything at all. Didn't Grandma tell you that?
Can't say in front of Grandma. You probably shouldn't say.
If you can't say in front of Grandma, she'll smack your lips on the backside of your head. So, you never had your lips smacked on the back of your head, did you?
No, I think
my lips were on the back of my head for about 10 years of my life.
We did the soap, so that was always the big threat at the babysitters. If you say that, I'm gonna put soap in your mouth, boy.
Yeah, and so I don't want censorship, but I'm certainly in favor of self-censorship, and I think some of us get this feeling like there's a free pass to run our mouth at the expense of others. And that doesn't build up anyone. So again, I think this is just a great wisdom that we need to tap into.
Yeah. What are some of the ones that you kind of highlighted? What are some of the ones that you have seen?
This is one that I say with some seriousness right now for the sake of this country. And this is actually verse 11, Proverbs 11. Through the blessing of the upright, a city is exalted. By the mouth of the wicked, it is destroyed. We, at the time of this recording, are watching around this country lots of destruction, lots of decay within our cities. We don't know what that's going to come out to look like in the end. And I think there's just a lot of responsibility of those of us in this country who are understanding how we're running our mouth. Both sides. It doesn't matter. We're wanting to choose sides here, and both of it can be very much. There's a reason why sides came to be. And so we have to be a little bit more humble and start listening to what people have to say, and then starting to seek a common good for everybody. As long, and I'll go right back to this, it is with fearing of God. And that's a tough one because there are a lot of folks that don't have God as their base point, as their benchmark. And so that's a tough one. But I don't know where this ends with our country, but if we continue to be nasty and wicked towards each other, we're going to watch a continued destruction of our nation.
So very true. Part of, when we're talking about wisdom, like part of being wise and part of seeing wisdom through the lens of God is we have to have grace for one another. Like, yes, there's a lot of crap that's going on in this world. There's a lot of people doing a lot of stupid stuff right now. But this is where we need to, again, what does God say about this? And seeking his word and realizing that there's got to be grace involved in this. Yes, people are saying mean things to each other, like, that they're being jerks, right? Man, we got to have a little bit of grace for each other. We have to come to the table, start a conversation. Just completely doing blanket statements is not healthy. It's not going to uplift a city. It's not gonna bring wisdom to what we're currently going through. Man, our country right now needs wisdom more than ever, and we don't just need the earthly wisdom, right? We have to have, again, that fearful of the reverence of God. Like, we have to bring that back somehow. And I think it just starts with conversations, and let's just have those conversations, and hopefully we'll be able to bring the blessing, through our conversations, in hopes that God speaks through our words. Like, we'll be able to bring those blessings to different cities, and then those cities can uprise, and there's going to be change will happen. But I just think that the point that I really wanted to make was just we have to have grace for one another.
Yeah. And that's the only way we do that is through humility.
Yeah.
And not getting into rights and wrongs, but humility. Okay, we've got time for one more.
All right.
Okay, one more. So I am in. This is totally contradictory of anything that man thinks. Okay. So I'm in verse 24 in chapter 11. Okay. One person gives freely, yet gains more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty.
Oh boy.
Whoa.
Oh boy.
So the more I give, the more I receive is kind of what this is about. This is completely challenging to what I would call human common sense. So what you're telling me that if I have $100 in my pocket and I freely give it to benefit somebody else, that I'll get more. Explain that one to me.
I'm seeking wisdom, Earl. You explain that. No, the one part that really stands out to me is that freely.
Yes.
Man, God gives us the choice. We can choose to be generous with what we have, or we can choose to hold on to that. And again, man, the earthly wisdom would say, hold on to that for dear life. Get everything you got, fight tooth and nail for it. And God here is clearly telling us freely give. And he talks about being a cheerful giver, not just freely giving, but also be excited to give. That going back to serving other people, the best way to serve is to give. And that may not necessarily mean actual monetary objects. Give up your time. Give up your ear to someone. Freely, cheerfully give something up. And what you'll receive on the back end of it when it's done with, again, having that godly perspective, man, you're gonna achieve and be so much more fulfilled than if you hold on to stuff and I really don't want to give this up.
Right.
It's gonna hurt, and you have this idea that it's gonna hurt to give. Where we're called to, as believers in Christ, we're called to freely, cheerfully give.
Yeah, it is giving to the point where we do it not for the intention of getting something back, but we give for the intention of benefiting another person. Okay. Yeah. And then we as we grow in that, we get to the point where we do sacrificial giving. In other words, I'm going to give so much that it may be uncomfortable for me.
Yep. That uncomfortable is really important.
Yeah. And again, I mean, if I got $1 million and I give you 100, okay. And again, it's not to put judgment on any of us, because I think all of us struggle in our security. I've got to have this much to make sure that things are going to run back at my place here. Right. And I think what this is all about is just trust in God here. Trust in God. We're not asking you to be foolish and throw money out the window.
Sure.
But when something's laid on your heart, let that be laid on your heart to enough that you would support it and put that out in front of what you desire for yourself, what you believe you have. And God will provide. And, personally speaking, Linda and I mean, we run a nonprofit ministry.
Yeah.
And I will say, especially in the first year, the numbers never worked. The numbers never worked,
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh. And then they would work. Yeah. And then donations and support and things like that would happen. And we could never put our finger on when or how that was going to happen. But we just continue to say, well, you know what? This is on our heart. We're going to continue to do the ministry that we do. And as all I can say is, and it's not a magic thing. We're just going to try to keep doing the will that God has laid on our heart. I don't know why he lays that on our heart, but he lays it on our heart. And so to be faithful to that, we want to continue to do it. And if God will bless it, we're going to keep on doing it. And if God, for whatever reason doesn't, then we'll have to figure it out from there. But I think freely giving is an extremely important thing if you are going to have blessings back in your life. And they may be, as you said, they may be blessings of people giving time, of people giving resources. It might be money, whatever, but it may not be money. It may not. It may be
maybe just be
else.
Prayers. I mean, man, we have an amazing gift. Like if you want to freely give to someone and financially it doesn't work right now, man, giving up your time and praying for people,
Yeah.
man, like the power of prayer is there. I can definitely attest to the fact that the power of prayer is there. Man, I love the Proverbs. I love looking at the wisdom literature that's in the Bible. Again, if you guys are out there and you're seeking wisdom, if you're seeking true wisdom, again, a wisdom that is based off of fearful of God, like the reverence of God, man, seek out those books, because what you will get from them is going to far surpass anything that any human can tell you and speak wisdom to you. Again, looking at through the lens through God, I think the wisdom we're going to get from that is going to be so much more powerful.
Yeah. So in wrapping things up, and we could do these wisdom check-ins.
Oh, yeah.
We should probably do these just every now and then. We should just grab a couple nuggets and go, yeah, this one doesn't make sense to me, and just try to figure out how us men are trained to wrestle with things that God wants us to wrestle with and come out on God's side. But part of our challenge is to do just that, to start to seek out how you are governing your life by God, by worldly standards, okay, and so many different facets, whether it's how we raise our kids, whether it's how we're spending our time, how we're spending our money, how we're treating our spouse, and just look at that, and then start picking through Proverbs for right now. Start picking through and finding those verses that don't make sense to you or that you struggle with. It won't take you long. Yeah. I mean, we just did 4 or 5 of them, and they were just right there. So, because your prideful self will be like, no. But your self that's trying to get in touch with God's way has to slow down and humble itself and go, I need to consider this. Yeah. So anyway, that's your challenge for this week. What you got, brother?
Definitely. We appreciate you guys. We're still plugging away. We're still doing our thing here, Strong Dads. We're really excited for kind of finishing out this year. We did a little brainstorming, got some good topics coming up.
Yeah,
so
we do.
We're really excited about that. If you guys have any question, comments, if you guys want to hear different topics, we would love to hear from you guys. Don't be afraid to reach out. I still don't have an email, Merle, but I think you're
not going to get one.
I'm not getting one.
You don't have enough wisdom yet.
Man, that hurts. But definitely reach out to Rockstyle Families. I know Merle and Linda would love to have a conversation with you. We would love to pick your brain, see where you guys are at. Don't be afraid to seek wisdom from other people. Again, it pains me to say Merle does have a little bit of wisdom.
Very little.
Maybe Linda's got more.
I can't even argue with that.
But yeah, we definitely appreciate you guys. I'm glad you guys are tuning in. Hopefully you guys are getting some good takeaways from our shows. And anything else, Merle? We good?
No. So we just want to thank the Kramer Beer House.
I forgot.
I'm doing your job.
I forgot this time.
It's an aging thing. I want to thank Kramer Beer House for coming alongside the Strong Dads podcast, as well as Mansfield Insurance Agency for also being one of our supporters. So we want to thank those guys. They make things possible so that we can do what we enjoy doing here. As for all that, we just want to say go out there and be some strong dads.
Hun.
I'm not calling you hun, you little weirdo.
Go out there and be some strong dads.
Hey, this is Merle Hutchinson from Strong Dads. Strong Dads wants to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency in Bright, Indiana for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. Established in 1981, the Mansfield Insurance Agency has been dedicated to the individuals and businesses in Bright, Indiana, serving clients throughout Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky.